Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Before we jump in, we want to give a huge thank you to our sponsor, SS Designs. We've got some super cool merch on the table. We've got really cool sweaters, some tote bags, some t-shirts, and they're all spooky season themed. So I know,
And Diwali theme.
And Diwali theme, because a lot of that overlaps this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's lots of fun times, but the designs are super, super cute, and definitely check them out. They're based here in Toronto, and like I said, they're so cute. We're loving the vibes.
Place your orders right away. Make sure you support her. She is a locally owned business, small business, Indo-Caribbean owned. So a lot of thought went into her merch. A lot of thought went into her designs. Some of the stuff you could see on it. It says Boots and Haunts. She has Jumbi.
The Jumbi is, that one might be my favorite, just
that one's so cute. I know.
It's so cute. It really is. And then
she's trying to get that one, and I'm taking that one.
I know. We were fighting over it earlier, who's gonna take it.
And then we have Anatomy of a Dia and the Sweets edit, and on the back of the Sweets edit sweater, it has all the different sweets. So that's jalebi, kurma. What else did it have? Vermicelli. It's really cute. Make sure you guys check it out. Make sure you guys go out and support. That's number one.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's just jump right into it then.
Yeah, let's jump in. So I think, as per usual, the way we like to start off is with our mental health check-in. So we're going to start with our mental health check-in. Ashley, how are you feeling this week?
I am feeling good. I'm feeling good. Yeah. I can't lie. I had a conversation with a friend, and we were kind of just I feel like I'm sometimes you just there's so much going on, and good things happen, and then you don't have a moment to immerse yourself in the good things, because there's just so many there's work, and there's just life, and there's never enough time, and I just took a moment.
We're always talking about.
I know there's never any time. If somebody can tell me what that's from, you get brownie points. You get 10 points. If you can tell me what show that's from, do you know?
Oh, probably, but my memory sucks, so I don't.
You don't know? Catch on. Are you even a 90s baby?
Of course.
There's never any time.
What is that from?
I can't. I'll have to tell you off camera.
Okay, just tell me after, because somebody has to get the brownie points.
Okay, guess now. You could guess now. Okay, but I'm gonna say it in 3 seconds.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Saved by the Bell.
Oh, you know what? I was never a huge fan of Saved by the Bell.
Oh my god, I love Saved by the Bell.
I found it kind of corny.
Okay, we gotta get back to the topic, but no, it was so good.
Don't hate me.
I don't even want to get into that.
It wasn't one of my favorites.
That was literally one of my favorites.
Really?
Oh, I loved it. I watched it every single morning.
Fair.
Every single morning. It would come on at 7 or 7:30.
I know those ones, but for me, it was a little further back, because I used to watch Different Strokes and Good Times. That was what I used to watch before school.
Yeah.
Skip over.
So sometimes things are just moving so fast, you don't have a minute to enjoy the good things, and a lot of amazing things that I've been praying on have been happening for me, and she just reminded me to take a moment and realize that you're living in answered prayers. And that really hit me in my heart.
Really beautiful.
I know. She's you are sometimes there's probably other things that are very stressful, but that's the yin and yang of life. And I was oh my god, that's so true. I'm literally living in my answered prayers, but you don't realize when you're going so fast, So I'm just I'm feeling I'm feeling a bit more relaxed this week, where I could actually enjoy the things that are happening to me. So I feel like I'm on 10.
You're on 10? Okay, yeah. Well, we like to be on a 10.
I'm on 10.
Okay, well, we like that.
What about you? Where are you at?
I don't know. I'm probably I can't say I'm on a 10, but maybe a 6 or 7.
Oh, 6 is kind of low.
It's not it's not a bad 6. It's just I can't say that it's been, I don't know, a super standout week or a bad week either. So it's just kind of sort of neutral in a way. I had a really nice meeting yesterday. So a couple weeks ago, I was at the Word on the Street, the big literary festival, and I met this girl who was kind of my super fan. It was
cool.
It was a really, I don't know, I've never had an experience like that, but I was at I was there for work, because we were doing a literary scavenger hunt at the festival. And so this girl, all of a sudden I was there talking to people, whatever, this girl came up to me and was oh my god, are you Tiara? And I was yeah, that's me. So she was oh my god, she was stuttering, oh my god, I can't
Continue.
Yeah. Oh my god, I can't believe it's you. And she was stuttering and just super overwhelmed. And I was it was cool. I just didn't know how to respond at first, but I was just like,
That's
yeah,
exciting.
like, what's your, like, I just started talking to her, like, yeah, what's your name and stuff. She was like, I follow all your work. And like, like she really likes like what Brown Gyal Diary does. And she was like, your books and all the thing, like, and
That's
you were just
great.
on the news and stuff like that. Like she genuinely was just very,
But I
in
feel like that
touch.
may have been like really good for you. Like I feel like that's kind of like the reassurance that you
Yeah.
sometimes need. Because I know you like,
Yeah.
like full disclosure, like you're just like literally not even feeling like all the best about certain things that have been happening. You've just been like there about your successes,
It's
So
true.
like maybe that's like one of the things where like you were reminded that you're like living in your answered prayers too.
You know what it is, I think, and that's honestly it's a good point because it's actually very fair, and I think especially since we'll get into it more later, but I think especially since mental health is such a big pillar for us, and that's a thing. Like I will fully say that yeah, there's been a lot of like good things that have happened to me throughout the course of the summer and I guess the year, and I don't think I've really felt as maybe excited as I probably should.
And
But
I think that's like a good segue into like what we wanted to talk about this week
mhm.
or this month, whatever.
Yeah,
This podcast. Because to be
podcast.
honest with you, like we're both entrepreneurs. We both work full-time jobs. We both have a lot going on, and like I can even feel on your energy right now like we're both tired.
We wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, like
and yes, tired
and
is a regular occurrence.
And I feel like we even have said so many times, like we have so many friends. Like nobody just has one job anymore.
No, it's like impossible.
Yeah, like nobody
in Toronto. Like how you can't unless I don't know unless you make really good money off that one job. God bless you, but otherwise, I feel like no one.
And you're just tired, like.
Yeah,
like sometimes
chronically.
you just stop to take a moment and you don't even realize like how I realize how tired I am, but do you really have a choice? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
totally.
I think like that again segues like into our topic today around like that whole idea of like entrepreneurship and like working in the industry, like the Caribbean industry, and like what does that even entail?
Mm-hmm. I think it's there's so many hats because on one end there's like we get to do this, right? Like this is also one of our jobs, you can say, right? We get to do this. We get to be BGD, we get to do our podcast, we get to do events, we get to be out in the community and stuff like that and run programming like we did this summer. And that was really, really fun. Like I love doing those things. I think it's so much fun. It's something that I totally wish we could do completely, permanently, every day.
Forever, I know.
Forever. I mean, we can. No one's saying we can't do it forever.
Yeah, it's true.
So, we'll put that out there too. But yeah, I mean, there's that. But then there's also the other side where we both, we have like other interests and things that drive us as well. And we both work in nonprofit and have been in like corporate spaces.
Is this just like our sad journal dump? Our sad journal dump podcast? No, but you know what I get what you're saying. And I think like the whole thing about it is like, as entrepreneurs, when we think about our mental health, right? For me, it always, and in like obviously like the most cliche, well not cliche, like obviously the most like ironic way, it always comes last.
Yeah, I was gonna say I probably don't ever even think about mine.
Yeah, like it always comes last for me. And I think like again back to that idea of like not having any time. I remember like let's just take it back to the beginning. Like when you first became an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? Like I think for me, some of the biggest shocks for me as becoming an entrepreneur was like, what is going to happen? And like, I didn't jump into entrepreneurship with money saved. And a lot of people will tell you, oh, you need to have 3 months of money saved.
Yeah.
Like I jumped into entrepreneurship as a mom, as like a partner, and like I had bills to pay. Like, you have your car, you have your rent, you have this, you have that, you have all these bills to pay. And you're like, I'm just going to shoot the shot. And to be honest, like you do get into a mindset where you're like, I figure it out as I go. But one of the things that I found like when I first started that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about, which was like a shock, and a lot of people don't support, or there's not a lot of mentors, or there's not a lot of people to support. And rightfully so, because these entrepreneurs probably don't even have the time to be a mentor. You know what I mean? They don't even have the time to give themselves. How could they be a mentor to somebody else? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I totally understand. But for me, like I jumped in with no structure. Like I just jumped in with no structure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like you just do it. You just do the things. You do the things to get money. And then you end up like being in a space where you're like, fuck, like, or shoot. I don't know. I guess our podcast, we can swear if we want. But yeah, oh fuck, like now what? You know what I mean? And like you're just that's like when the tiredness begins, but you don't have a lot of solutions of how to fix it. Because at the time, like you can't pay for therapy. if you like don't have insurance because you're working for yourself, like you can't do those things, you know? Literally. Honestly, oh, we can get into therapy later.
We'll get
you know,
there,
it's
we'll
one of
get
my
there.
favorite topics. But anyway, so yeah, what about
Yeah.
you? Like when you first started, like what was that like?
I definitely jumped into it, and like my journey has been very, like I've tried a lot of things in my time, because I think my first ever like start at entrepreneurship, like I jumped into like having a small business, was 2017. And that was like me, like
What was it?
I think I've showed you before. So I used to make like little clay charms and stuff like that,
Oh, yes,
and like
yes.
figurines and stuff. I used to do a lot of clay work because that was something that I really liked to do at the time. And I started like an Etsy shop, and I did that
Yeah.
for like 3 years. Really, when it was COVID was then when I kind of just stopped doing it. So that was the first thing. And then in between there, at one point, I went through a phase where I really liked making body butters and stuff. So I started doing that and selling those, which was fun. But after a while, I just got tired of making them. So it was kind of
Yeah.
like it was a shorter
Yeah, it was one of those things
lived.
where you lost the interest because it became
Yeah,
too demanding. Yeah.
it did. It became a little too demanding, and then it takes over your kitchen, and then it's a whole thing. But so then there was that, and then those were the first two, and then through the pandemic was then when the shift changed to becoming that like author entrepreneur that now I am, when I started doing like 2 times removed and stuff. And that was something I completely jumped into head first with no knowledge, because it's still selling a product. Same thing as making something and selling. You're selling a product, but the process is quite different than just, opening like an Etsy shop and selling things that you made on there. So that took a lot of time and research and stuff that I honestly just never considered before, because again, it was very different. But I think that was probably my favorite venture out of all the ones that I've done, just because there was a lot of more personal motivation behind it.
Yeah, and I think like when you even think about like all these different things, right? Like just like how you were saying, you were kind of jumping from this to this to this. Like for me is very very I wouldn't say very similar in terms of like jumping from A to B,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a lot of like jumping from different types of clients. So I worked in I still work in marketing, but like I was like working in that space where I was just jumping from different things, and I think like that gave me a lot of like that's what made me so tired,
Mm-hmm.
because you're like overextending and you just like don't have the space to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're overextending in different spaces or with different people and you don't have the space to do it.
I think for me it came later on, because it wasn't so much of, I don't know, it wasn't so much of like that venture of like starting to be an author and things like that. It was more so like balancing that alongside really starting like my career, and like got my first big girl job at that time, as well. And it was like, okay, I was a writer, and then I had my job, right, which was the same thing, marketing, nonprofit. And then it was BGD, because then I joined, and that added that onto the plate. Then after a while, I got a second job and threw that on the plate. And then it was like, okay, now we're at
I
like...
am tired listening because it's so much stuff. It's so much stuff.
It's true. And then I left that second job, and then I started interning, and working transitioning to working in publishing, same thing in marketing, while still keeping all the other things. Like I didn't drop anything. I didn't drop my nonprofit job or BGD or being an author. And then I started doing my internship after I left that other job, and now I'm doing a second one right now. That same thing. So all four stay on the plate.
See, I'm tired. Yeah. Like just like, to be honest,
I'm going to sleep.
To be honest, like I want to like bring up the topic of hustle culture.
Oh, I love this one.
Yeah, because you know what it is? Like, that's what it is. Like, the expectation is that you just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the expectation is that you, like, have it all together. Like, you're just never going to have it all together.
I think the expectation is also sort of this piece where it's like, if you're not always going, if you're not always like, same thing, the hustle culture, right? If you're not always hustling, if you're not always grinding, you're not always working or whatever, then it's like, what are you doing? You're not being productive. You're not chasing the bag. You're not motivated.
And that even like came down to like that whole thing of like when I went through that phase of where I was like, what's my hobby? Still, like, I'm like, I guess my hobby is like organizing events.
We're gonna work on
like I still, but yeah, and like to be honest, like that was like the biggest thing was just like, what is my hobby? Like everything needed to be, everything that I did and everything that I do, even still like now it's like an unlearning kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I do or did had to be attached to like a bigger concept or a bigger project or a bigger this or a bigger that. And I feel like a lot of women like, or a lot of just people in general just go through that, right? Where it's like, what is your accomplishments? And I remember like reading this girls, I remember like when we went, we're always going through things with BGD, right? Like as things change and things grow and all these different things, and you just feel like, what have I done? Like, what have I really accomplished? You know what I mean?
It's another conversation that we have all the time.
I know. Like, what have I done and what have I accomplished? And I think it's just like you go so fast and you don't do anything to like for your own personal enjoyment. It's all work that where do you have the space to really stop and be like, oh wow, I really did do a good job. Like, oh yeah, I really can see my progress. Oh, I really did do something well. Like I told you, like you always know, I always tell myself like I'm never proud of myself. I'm never proud of myself. Like
that's so loaded.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
loaded.
I'm never proud of myself. And then like this year was the first year where we're just like, okay, like let's just stop for a minute and like be proud of our accomplishments here and there. And even still, like I still could say every day I tell myself I'm gonna stop and write down like the things that I'm proud of. And I think that comes back to like that whole piece of people saying like, what are you grateful for? You know, when they tell you like, you know, the 5-minute journals and all those things. Oh yes,
like gratitude journaling. Gratitude, or like, because
you're moving so fast that like, you know, sometimes people see those things all the time and they're like, it's stupid. But like, it's not because it's 5 minutes out of your day. But how many times a day do you stop to be like, holy shoot, I'm living in answered prayers. Oh my God, I'm really actually doing a good job. Like you never do it, you know? And again, it's like I said, it's back to that whole hustle culture idea.
I think so. Even so, yesterday I met with, like I was saying, the girl who I had met at the festival and stuff, because she was really like, I would love to have like a chat with you and ask you questions about like how you got where you got and things like that, right? So yeah, we went.
Shoot, I don't know.
I swear to God. So we went, we had coffee and donuts. It was really cute. She's super awesome, super lovely. But she was so kind, because she was just like I saw you and I was just like, you're who I want to be. And I'm like, holy shit. Because I'm like, I'm not even fully formed yet. I don't even think I'm who I want to be. But I think it's so interesting that sometimes I think we look at other people and be like, well, that's what I want to be. And I'm not there yet. Like, I know I do that sometimes. And I'm like, there's so many things that I don't have yet. And I see others who have gotten there. And I'm like, I don't want exactly what you have. I just want my version of that.
But there's a word for that. I don't remember the word. It's like, you always want the next thing. There's a word for it. Oh my God, we had spoke about it one time. Yeah, I was going to say, we looked it up. Yeah, and it was I don't remember what it is. You always want the next thing. Like, you're never satisfied in what you're in right now. Yeah. You're never actually like soaking into whatever you're in. You're always on to the next thing. Like, I feel like in my mind, one of the things that I have to like, you know, like, I think really what the topic is today is just like, really like, what are the areas, like, how do you slow down? You know, how do you slow down? How do you take
slow down and
we're like, how do we? Anybody? Where are the therapists?
Somebody help us.
Where are the therapists that we have on the directory? No, seriously, but really and truly, and I think like it's just like a real, like it's just like a real conversation where it's just like sometimes you sit down with your friends and you're like, what am I doing? You know, and what does happiness look like for me? Like, really. Like, I've tried to, like, sometimes I really have to, like, stop and remind myself, like, when I see something, I'm like, is that happiness for somebody else? Like, is that what I think happiness looks like? Or is that really what it looks like for me? You know? Like, do I really want these things? Or do I just think I want them because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to have?
I've considered that. I've also considered that maybe some of the things that I want are maybe not even meant for me in the grand scheme of life. I don't know.
I'm just laughing because like I just feel like it's funny because like, you know, like sometimes we joke about these topics, like, you know, we'll sit in like we will sit somewhere for like we will literally like humor as a crutch, but really and truly like there's so many women that are like dealing with the same thing where we're just like, when do we slow down? And I seen a post the other day, and it's like, how do they expect, like, well, this was specifically a mom one, but they're like, how do they expect moms to like get up every morning? I think I saw you reposted probably. Oh my God, yeah, I was probably crying. Like, it was like, how do you expect moms to like, you know, get up, cook dinner, make lunch, make breakfast, get the kids ready, get to work, have a side hustle, get to the gym, and come home, clean the house, keep the house clean, do the laundry.
I'm tired already.
Like, to be honest, so you really like never realize like how many things, and you're like trying to fit in to your day, like all the things. And then you like beat
Yeah.
yourself up when you don't get to the gym, you know, you beat
Yeah.
yourself up when you don't get here. You beat yourself up when you don't get to things, and you're so busy beating yourself up that you don't even take a minute to be like, shoot, like look at the things I actually did today.
Mhm.
Like, you know, like sometimes you're like, oh my God, like, you know, like I work in nonprofit marketing, but I do a lot of like fundraising and stuff. And like me and my manager were always doing these like really amazing things, like getting things signed, like working with like bigger names, building partnerships.
Yeah, you guys always have big things happening.
Yeah, and
at
like
your
you never
organization.
stop to just be like, shoot, like I actually did something good at work today.
Mhm.
You know, or shoot, like I actually like, you know, like the BGD stuff that we're doing now, like some of the things that, you know, like
We ran a whole summer program.
we ran a whole summer program. Like
A
you
whole
just
summer
never
program.
stop. Like it's
Yeah.
never enough. And it's like, how do you take care of yourself, you know?
Yeah. I think so that part brings me to like literally one of my favorite topics, which you probably know already, which is like hobbies. Hobbies is one of my favorite topics, and I genuinely feel like it, especially one in the community and then two just even with like women in general, I feel like it gets missed all the time because I like it's one of those things that you can kind of look at it like deeper back where, for example, like I think I've probably told you this or told this story before. Like my grandma is retired now, and she like her hobbies are literally like Young and Restless and talking on the phone.
Oh,
And it was
God.
like,
Yeah.
well, she spent her whole life literally like married and then divorced and then raising 3 kids on her own and then working 2-3 jobs and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
The whole story, we know the story, right?
Yeah.
But it's like even now that she finally has quiet time, the thing is she's never had a chance to actually develop any further interests or hobbies
Yeah.
in her life outside of like being a mom. Like her biggest pride and joy every week is that like she cooks for every single like family within our family. Like my mom
Ooh.
and like my 2 aunts,
That's good.
like she picks a day each week and cooks for like each of our families. Like she tailors it to
Oh no, my grandma needs to step her game up.
well, because like
I'm gonna have to tell her this.
we're all
I'm gonna
we're
send
all
her
like
this.
mixed families, right? So she has to cook like for different palates and stuff because
Yeah.
like my cousins all have different mixes too, right?
I'm dead.
So it's like if she's cooking for like my half Greek cousins, that's a different palate. My family, you know,
But that
we're
is her
different
hobby
palate.
then.
It
That's
is.
like a nice
cooking's a
activity. Like
hobby.
every day, that is her hobby, right?
But it's also very much rooted in like being a caretaker, being
Yeah.
a mom, because that is what she's done for so long. But then when my mom tells her, like, hey, mom, why not take up a craft or so, she's be like, Mia, I don't want to do them things.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Why?
Yeah, and
you
you
need a hobby.
It's true, yeah. It is true. I would say my grandma does like the mall walkers and stuff. And she's like involved.
Yeah.
She's like very heavily involved in the community. And it's like there are it like, you know, like there are ways to like get involved and like do things. And I hear what you're saying, but I think a lot of like where our response comes from too of like doing these things is that space, right? Where we think about who are the women that we see and what do they deal with, right?
Yeah.
Because like even like being a mom, like I think like that was like a major mind shift for me, right? In so many great ways. Like I can truly say that, yeah, it's weird, okay? And I say this like in the most honest way where it's just like I don't have a balance. I don't have a good balance. You know, there are certain things sometimes like that I see with my son that I'm like, shoot, if I maybe spent a little more time, he may have done like, you know, you do those things as a parent. Like you'll be like, if I did this and this, maybe this and this. He's great. Like he has a great life, obviously. Like, but naturally as a parent, you're like, oh, this could have been better, or this could have been different, or this could have been different. Like when I first started like going back and like interning, right? I had my son when I was like 21. Like, I guess it's like, it's not young, but it's younger nowadays. So that was like what, 6.5, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Like, sounds long. But when I had him, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks after, I started going back to like where I work now. And that was at the time where I was still finishing my degree.
After 3 weeks already?
Yeah. I was just like,
Holy.
and that's when I started BGD. Like right around that time, that like maybe 3-4 months later,
Yeah.
that's when I decided to like start BGD. You know, and
Jesus.
that's when I wrote the first
Yeah.
grant in that year, 2018, to get it in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I was just like already on go, because like my focus was like, okay, well, if I'm a parent, I need to be like constantly hustling. That's what my son needs to see. He needs to see that like I'm always have a goal. But sometimes it's like a trauma response too, right? Like to whatever
absolutely
whatever you're going through, right?
response.
Like what did you see your parents go through? What did you see your grandparents go through? And what do you respond to? Like my grandpa used to work 5 a.m. in the morning till he didn't come home till 9 p.m. at night. We would wait. You know, like my grandma would get up at 4 a.m. and just like say bye and do these things and like be a stay-at-home wife or stay-at-home mom and like be a grandma and do all these things for us all day while my grandpa go to work for so long. And those are the things that you like adopt. You know what I mean? And those are the things that you like become your life. So for me, even like the first time I ever slowed down, I think I had said this in another podcast, but the first time I ever slowed down was when my grandpa died. My grandpa passed away a couple of years ago. And that's when like I had this moment where I was like, yo, life goes fast. You don't even notice how fast you're going. You don't even notice how much you don't slow down until something traumatic happens, you know? And like I feel like a lot of times like that's our problem, right? We don't slow down until we're forced to slow down. But when do we just tell ourselves that we naturally need to slow down? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And again, like, because kind of what you were saying, like what we've seen and what we've seen throughout like life and our parents and stuff like that. Because like for me, for example, like I had working parents, you know, my whole childhood. My mom worked 5 days a week, 9 to 5. My dad worked same thing, like full time, sometimes 5-6 days. So sometimes like he would only have 1 day off for the whole week. Yeah. And you know, he worked like very demanding hours. So sometimes his days were 10-12 hours and he wouldn't get home until I was going to bed, for example. Yeah. So I was very used to my parents like going for so long. And I don't even think for them that they slowed down until literally COVID came. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, work from home, and they're home all the time. Like I've never had my parents home.
We were like pick up during the pandemic. We were like, let's go.
Yeah, I know. We were literally like, let's go. But it was such a different experience. I think when the pandemic first hit, I was like, oh my God, everyone's home all the time. This is so weird. Because I hadn't really been used to that my whole life. Because again, like my parents are working. I'm very used to like wake up, we go to school, work, we come home, we eat dinner, do the whole routine, blah, blah, blah. But then all of a sudden we were all home. But I think like there was a little piece of me, like inner child, where I was like, a lot of people in my class growing up too as a kid like had stay-at-home moms, and you know, they had that luxury. I didn't have that luxury. Yeah. So having my parents home so much after a while, I think like it did something to my brain where I was like, oh my God, they're here all the time now. Like they're not gone or at work or anything. Like we're actually just here together like all the time. We're having like all 3 meals a day with each other, and we're all working from like, I don't know. It was really nice because it was like a slowdown, but we got to slow down as a family and sort of live in a way that we hadn't gotten to, because again, like everyone had always been same thing, just very like go. And but that was a huge slowdown moment, and I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it.
And you know, like I think like that's the thing too. Like when you get into those slow down moments, how do you like embrace it without feeling guilty? Because sometimes you slow down or you put and I just had a conversation. Well, not a conversation. I had like commented on somebody's post today where I had just said like it was like 2 little images. It was like I gotta check it. I want to show you. It was like the girl literally just posted it. But it was a really nice post. Like it was these 2 brains, right, in the photo. And it was 2 brains. I'm literally looking at it right now. And one of them says after 6 hours of Zoom calls. And then it had like little like the brain was like smoking up. Yeah. And it had all these like lightning bolts. And then the other one says after a 30-minute walk, and it had like it was talking about your creativity, like how your creativity responds after a 30-minute walk. It was like a plant that grew from the brain. And it's so true because, you know, like one thing that you realize when you're like working multiple jobs or, you know, oh my God, do you see what I just opened? Naturally,
I know. I literally saw the blue and I'm triggered.
I'm like, oh my God, because
I saw the blue. Yeah, and because
you like it's natural.
Stop.
I know it's bad. But what I'm saying is like when you have all these jobs and you have all these demands and you have like, first of all, like we live in a space now where not as we said before, not one person can have one job. Yeah. You can't. You're like, you really,
it's like a privilege.
Like you can, but some people, like for me, I just feel like now that I've got a taste of like what the difference is of like one, running your own business, but also like having the security of your job. Yeah. Like I think that like it's hard to let it go. Right. And when you have all these different things going on, like you don't know when you need to like give your space to like, you just do the things. Like you become like a robot almost, and you just do the things and you don't stop to be like, holy, if I just took like a 30-minute walk today, just like the post said, like how much more creative could I be? How much more organized could I be? How much more peaceful can I be when I'm getting these things done? Because for me, like how it felt and like in different roles, it's like, if I don't do this right away, I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose it all. I'm going to lose everything, the life that I have right now that I enjoy so much. I'm going to lose it and somebody else is going to take it. You know what I mean? And then you like get into this space where you're just like go, 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 but then you're not even producing. You know, I got into a space truly like recently where like I kept making a lot of mistakes. And I was like, I suck. Like I suck. Like I can't even do this. I can't do my job. I can't do anything. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not good at my job. I'm not good at anything. Like I felt so down. I was like, I'm not. It was like a lot of negative talk. And it's terrible because you're just like one of the people that I work with, they had to like, I had a conversation with them and they're like, honestly, like we know we want to help you like fix the mistakes because like we understand everybody was feeling the pressure, you know? And they're like, you're not a terrible person. Like you've accomplished so many things. So I think like also like having a good team was really helpful. But my point with all of that was that sometimes you just like don't realize like how fast you're going and like how slowing down could actually be a benefit to you versus like a negative impact. Like stepping away from Bertha can wait for that email, okay? Bertha can wait to find out if she's gonna get her brochure tomorrow or not, okay? Right? Or if we're gonna fix the colors, okay? Like Bertha can wait. But sometimes they
Bertha,
can't.
you can wait.
Like literally, like sometimes like because you know what, like it's actually a better thing if they wait versus like
then you trying to rush it and then making an error. I feel you because honestly I've done that too where sometimes it's like I'm at one job throughout the day or whatever. Like I'm, it's in office day. I'm there the whole day from like whatever 9 to 4-ish, we'll say, because I do leave early. But anyways, my other job is like messaging throughout the day, and they're like, "Hey, so can you do this? Can you get that? We need this by the end. Like we need this by this afternoon." And I'm like, I can't even get it to you by this afternoon because I'm not at home. I'm not on my other laptop. Like I'm at my work. I don't like to cross-contaminate work with one laptop and stuff like that because I don't know, God forbid, you never know. Whatever.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know, but I don't like to do that. So then it's it's a thing. And then I know I'm gonna get home. It's like after 5. Then I gotta do another set of work, and then sometimes you're sitting there and you're like, I so badly just don't want to do anything right now. But I have a little checklist of what I have to do for my other job, and that's like another maybe hour and a half, 2 hours that I have to put in. It's not every single night, of course, but there are some nights where it's like that, and there's like that crossover, especially throughout the fall because the fall busy time in publishing, and that's exactly what I work in, so I have to factor that in. And it's you drop one hat, come home, and then it's another hat, and then it's like by the time all that's done, then it's like okay, it's like 8 o'clock, and you want to shower, eat dinner, relax.
Another big thing that I think a lot of people don't talk about too with what you're saying, and just like the whole idea of like all these different hats is like knowing when you have to put on a different hat, or like knowing when it's time to put on that different hat. Like halfway through my entrepreneurial journey of like working for myself, and like I was doing okay. Like I actually ended up like making the salary that I was making before. I was really happy. I mean, I was happy. I don't know, really happy. I don't want to say that. Like I was happy, I guess. Like I was fine.
Joyful.
Yeah, I was okay. I was neutral. I was there. I was just there. That was it. I was just there. And like really what I realized is that I got to a point where I'm like, what are the benefits as a mother, as a partner? What does that mean for me to like go back to work, to have a job again? And like when I went back to having a full-time job and still working and building all these different things, right? Like building BGD and like obviously building like my own, like the marketing, like my marketing stuff that I do on the side, I felt like the biggest failure. I felt so terrible. And I'm like, it was never a thing where I was like, oh, I had to go back, but I went back for other reasons. It had nothing to do. I mean, obviously a lot of things when it comes to work has to do with the money, right? But a lot of it had to do with like, this is actually a healthier space for me. You know what I mean? Like I have a little bit more structure. It offered a lot of space for like my son to still be a part of my day-to-day life, and it didn't conflict, like there was a lot of crossover and I had more security, but I felt like such a failure. Even though I was still building other things on the side.
Because you're doing so many things.
I had to literally stop and have a conversation, multiple conversations, multiple journal entries, and be like, this is not a setback. Like I had to tell myself, like, this is not a setback. This is not something that like makes me a failure because I didn't do A, B, and C. Like this is actually a part of my journey. Like now I'm okay with it and I'm really happy. But like for a long time, like I was ashamed to tell people that like I had to go back to work, because I felt like people were just going to be like, well, you only went back because you couldn't do it. But like, even if I couldn't do it, so what? You know what I mean?
It's better to try than to never have tried.
Yeah, and I think it's like a really intense thing when you think about like all the pressures of like being an entrepreneur because your brain is also like going like this all the time. Like I don't think my brain ever stops, you know?
Hmm.
Like I feel like my brain never stops. I don't know. I'm sure you feel that way too.
I think so. Like I don't know. I try to be conscious sometimes and be like brain off and okay, I'm gonna do whatever. Like I'm gonna do one of my hobbies. I'm gonna enjoy something and whatever. But I feel like I still end up thinking about work or something that I could be doing. Like like okay, I like to crochet. We all know that. So I'll
Hmm.
be there crocheting. Crocheting can be very mindless at times because if you don't have to follow like a pattern closely, you can just kind of go at it and whatever. So it gives you a lot of brain off time, but also a lot of time to like think because your hands are just kind of going and you can be sort of in a middle ground. But I find that sometimes I still end up thinking about work, or I still end up thinking about the to-do list, or I still end up thinking about okay, I could be doing this, or what's my next writing project? Because for me, like I think the thing that gets me is like momentum, where
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, I've just put out a book for every year for the last like 3.5 years. What's my next project? What's my next book?
That's
I
it.
have to
What's my
keep,
next project?
yeah,
Yeah.
I have to
Sorry.
keep the momentum going. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, and it's probably even just in my head, but I'm just kind of like, yeah, like, I'm sure people are like expecting what's the next thing. And then it kind of feels that way too, because then sometimes when you talk to people and they're like, oh, yeah, like, so whatever your next book is, whenever your next book is, and I'm like, I just did like three. I don't know what the next book is. I have a couple ideas,
And I
sure,
think we had that
but
moment
it's a
like
lot.
with BGD this year, like be in all honesty, right? Where we were just kind of like, let's just breathe for a minute. You know, the world
Mm-hmm.
is not gonna crumble if the
Yeah.
market doesn't happen. Okay? The market is not gonna be, and you know, like even though it's a beautiful
I love
thing,
the market.
I know. But even though it's a beautiful thing and even though the brunch is a beautiful thing, like it's better again to like stop and take that walk. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? So we can
Yeah.
come back tenfold and be like 100 times better. And
It's
I
better
think
to take the time and do it the way we do it to the capacity we want to versus like trying to rush it and
exactly. And I think
all
like
of that.
really like we said, like one having the hobbies to like really take care of yourself, but like really, really like I've never got to talk about the therapy part of things, right? Really
Mm-hmm.
and truly. And like obviously I believe in therapy because we have a directory.
Maybe, just
But
maybe.
yeah, like obviously I do. But to be honest with you, therapy saved me my entire life. And you don't even realize how much it saves you. Like, I started going to therapy. I started dealing with mental health issues from the young age of 14 years old. 14 years old. Well, actually, before that. Before that, without even realizing. Like, I was always like a crier. I was always a crybaby. Okay, fine, whatever. Everyone used to say it. And I
That's okay.
always had like severe anxiety, but
Mm-hmm.
never knew what it was. Like I always knew, like every time I would hear loud music or every time I would hear this or every time I would hear certain sounds, my body would like crunch up
Mm-hmm.
from a little girl, you know? And like I also grew up in a family like obviously very supportive, but also didn't understand that that was like not normal,
Yeah.
right? Not normal. And like when I say like coming to the topic of therapy, from the time I was 14 years old and I had access, no, 15, grade 10. From the time that I was in grade 10 and I had access to a therapist in my school, I utilized it all the time. Miss Hassan, Miss Mercer, like I'll never forget them because
Mm-hmm.
these women, like when I was in high school and I started to like, you know, I went through the depression. I went through like the feelings of suicide. I went through all of it. Like I went to the hospital. I was going to all the different spaces, Youth Link, like Shonaker Clinic, all these different spaces like where you were really like having to deal with these things and like those spaces like really gave me a space to just like talk and just like decompress or just like move away from like the pressures of like real life that we don't think are serious that don't impact us like from a young age when you're dealing with things like relationships in high school and you're dealing with things like school or you're dealing with things with like you know like difficult friends like all these things like do contribute to who you become as a person. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
like being able to go to therapy and like go to the social worker at school and go to the counselors at school and have those conversations. Like it was also like, I think my mom even went through a phase where she was kind of like embarrassed that I was doing it because she didn't really understand it either. And like at a point, like they obviously had to like forcefully understand it when things got really serious. You know what I mean? Like when I was like, it was like life or death kind of thing. Well, not as severe as I know some people go through, but it was a serious thing, right?
It's always serious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, you know, and I say this like, you know, like wholeheartedly, like I'm not I'm not a therapist. I'm not like a mental health professional. I'm just strictly an advocate because that was like what my experience was, where I literally had to go to different therapists and like at a young age, learn what it means to shop around for a therapist. You know, like I learned at a very young age, I could not speak to a man and I could not speak to a person that was not of color.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like not realizing that how it was going to become a big part of my life now. You know what I mean? It's crazy when you think about it because you don't even realize like how something so when you're so young can be something that's so major when you get old. Like now my whole life is centered around like making sure people understand, or our whole life is centered around making sure people understand the importance of like speaking to somebody that's culturally responsive. You know what I mean? So at a young age, I started doing those things and I never stopped. You know, like I never stopped. When I started going through things, my resort was always going back to like a therapist, even at my like older ages. When me and my partner decided to go to therapy when we were in a difficult situation, to get a man to go to therapy is not an easy thing, right? It's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
But like even he was able to see, and he grew up in a space obviously where same thing, right? Like, you know, therapy is not a norm. It's not a normal thing for like Trinidadian people.
It's not even really like a conversation.
Yeah, like
in our families where they're like, you know, this is an option.
Yeah, and it wasn't even until I got older where my grandma started to open up to me and be like, yeah, I dealt with this, this, and this. And then my dad dealt with the same things. And I was like, well, makes sense now.
There's clearly a trend
this is why I'm like severely depressed half the time, because literally it's in our blood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's genetics, right? So like, of course, like, you know, but then we start to realize as we get, sorry, just got a message, TR, we can't let our streak end on TikTok. Just a heads up.
You let the last one
No, like
end.
don't let the streak end.
You
That's
almost
what it
let
says.
it end.
After this, we have to send each other a random thing. Anyway, so yeah. So long story short, like, I guess it's a long story now, but like my point is like, it was just always a big thing. Like getting my partner to go to therapy, like that saved our relationship. It saved our life. It saved us as a couple. We would never be where we are today if we didn't go to therapy and just I don't know what it is about a therapist that can just make you have these difficult conversations and really just be like, shoot, like I never looked at it from that perspective. Like the first thing that the therapist asked me and my partner, because I started going on my own first, right? We're in a difficult space and I started going on my own first. And like, I just fell in love with this therapist. Like she was just amazing. Like she's still so amazing. She's my therapist to this day. I literally saw her last Friday. And like, she was just amazing. Like the first thing she asked us was, do you guys want to be together? Yes or no? Let's just start there. Do you want to be together? Yes or no? And obviously we both said yes. And like the thing was like what I realized when I went to therapy is we as people, we don't naturally like we don't naturally complicate things in life, but we naturally like don't, these are complex things that we're dealing with trauma attached. You know, like depression, relationships, this and that. Like, how could we know how to deal with a relationship when we've never seen a healthy one in our life? You know what I mean? Or he's never seen a healthy one and I've only seen like couples staying together because that's what you're supposed to do. You have to stay together. You know what I mean? Which could be a really duty. Yeah, it's like it's a positive and negative thing, right? So for us, it's like, how do we as people expect that we are supposed to know how to deal with these things in life? How do we expect, like, having a conversation with her, me and him, and this person that's just listening from an outsider with their expertise? They went to school to learn how to deal with these problems, right? How are we as natural people that just live our day-to-day lives supposed to sit down and have an argument first and then sit down and be like, yeah, we know how to talk about it. We know how to do it in a healthy way. It's just not, it's not something that's just ingrained in our brains. You know what I mean? Because we go into different things with different issues attached. I'm the most important. I'm the most tired. I'm the most angry. You know what I mean? Or I'm the most this, or my issues are the most important.
Or sometimes we repeat the things that we've seen. Like, for example, if you maybe grew up seeing your parents handle conflict a certain way, that might be the way you by default end up handling conflict, because that is the way you saw conflict being handled for, you know, most of your life, or
Yeah,
your
it's true.
grandparents or something like that, right?
It's true, yeah.
And none of us have, I think, like, one of the things I've really come to realize too is just how, like, we, like you were saying, we're regular people who didn't go to school for any of these things, and somebody actually studied this for many years to get where they are. But we don't have that toolkit naturally.
Exactly,
and
exactly.
Even historically, like, we're really the first generation at this point that's actually getting to that place where this is a thing. It's a conversation.
In the Indo-Caribbean,
yeah.
Well, actually, in a lot of communities, to be honest, we pretty much all got the same. Yeah, we pretty much all got the same story. It's all of us.
It's really
Indo-Caribbeans, Afro-Caribbeans, the Mexicans, the Spanish, like, all of us.
Who's a person of color, I feel, understands the vibe. But that's something I've realized too, where it's just like, how am I supposed to be equipped to deal with certain things? It's not that you maybe don't want to, or whatever the case is. It's just you, like, there's no toolkit to say, or there's no experience where you can say, like, oh, I can go to my parents or my grandparents or my aunts, uncles, whatever, because it wasn't a concept for them. You know what I mean? Or it wasn't really a thing for them. I think even for my, like, I look at my parents and I feel like now that now they're in a place where all of a sudden, like, my mom talks about, like, things like mental health and well-being. And I was like, this is very different. And, like, she's very about, like, affirmations and energies and stuff. And it was very different.
It is. And like, I think you see it a lot with, like, this next generation, right? Like, I know, like, with me and my family, like, a lot of times when I think about, like, where does this, like, you know, like, I think one of the biggest things in my own relationship, in my own life with my partner was, like, we've been together, like, 8 years now, right? So we've, like, I mean, it's almost a decade, which is crazy. But, like, we've definitely been through it all. I would say we've been through almost all the things, you know? Yeah. All the things of, like, what could have ended us. Like, we've always found a way to fight through it. And I think, like, one of the things that I noticed for myself was, like, who were the women that I grew up around, and, like, how do they respond, right? They're very, like, you don't need anybody. You could do it yourself. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm around a lot of women. All the women in my life are like, I could do this by myself.
Same.
Like, I'm not waiting for you to do it.
Every woman in my life has always been very strong-minded.
Yeah.
And whether they have a man or not is not really a make or break.
Exactly. Like, my grandma was always that kind of woman. Like, she was just always that. She still is. Like, she's an independent woman. Like, she still drives to this day. She still takes it. Like, she's not missing her walking club, okay? Like, she's not missing it. It's her life.
I literally love that for her.
Like, she's not missing her exercise class ever. You know what I mean? But, like, those are the things. Those are the type of women that you see yourself, like, or see yourself around. Like, my family is, like, highly dominated by women, right? Same. Like, my mom has 4 sisters. And then we have, like, all of the girls, and we're all really close. So we, like, you know, like, naturally feed off of each other's, like, powerful energy. Yes, you could do this. You could do this. They were always working women. Some of them were single moms. Some of them are, like, just, like, powerful women that aren't in relationships. You know what I mean? And live their life, like, yeah, I don't need a man, and I can live my life, and I want to have fun, and that's the most important thing to me, right? So, like, I feel like I have a benefit of, like, being able to see all types. So, like, all in all, I think, like, for me, like, what it was, like, being able to see all these different women and being able to go through all these things, and being able to see all these powerful women, I think, like, what it became is, like, I became a woman that didn't need anybody. And I think, like, for me, you know, a lot of times people nowadays, they talk about, like, that idea of, like, you know, like, your femininity, and just, like, even the talk, like, me bringing it up, it's, like, kind of makes me cringe, but, like, I get it, you know? Yes. And, like, even though women, like, joke about it, and they're like, oh, I'm in my soft life, I'm in my soft girl era, blah 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 blah.
It's annoying, but I get the point.
Exactly.
And I very much want to be in my soft girl era.
I think it's a beautiful, that's a social media thing. Yes. But I think the concept of, like, women just wanting to just, like, I think it's really just women's call to just be like, I want to slow down. Like, that's what I really think it is. Like, women just want to be like, I just want to slow down.
I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl.
We should have wore our I'm just a girl shirts. We should have wore our I'm just a girl shirts. Okay, but
next time.
So I'm just like, yeah, I just feel like it's almost like a call for women that we're just ready to, like, slow down, you know, and trust in, like, whoever, like, the people that we just trust in our softness that we don't get to embrace. I feel like for me, like, I remember there was somebody that was saying something about, like, you know, like, my partner, he's a little bit quieter on the outside to outside people, but I'm a little bit, like, you know, you see me, like, I'm on BGD's page, I'm talking, I'm always voicing my opinion.
Your face is everywhere.
Oh my God. But, like, you know, like, I'm always voicing my opinion. I'm a very vocal person. If I don't like something, I'm going to say it. You know? If I don't like something, I'm going to say it. If I believe in something, I'm going to stand on it. And I don't care if you think I'm defensive. Like, I've always been that person, right? And I feel like I remember somebody telling me like, yeah, you like, you know, you're just like a woman. You just like always need to speak up. You just always need to do this. You just always need to do that. And I'm like, you know, like sometimes I do just want to chill, but like, why does that have to take away from me having a strong opinion? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like women battle with that all the time. And it's like, you literally being able to go to therapy has allowed me to understand like the woman that I want to be, and like also just like the balance that I want to have, and like how I could stand on myself. And like really the whole world doesn't need to understand that. You know what I mean? But I feel like being able to understand that yourself gives you a lot more like brightness. Like it gives you that light that you sometimes see people feel like they're missing. Like for me, I can leave a therapy session just feeling like, bro, what did this lady say to me that I just feel like I understand? You know, there's been times where I could just like, I'm having like for me, it feels like a crisis. And my therapist is just like, slow down. You can go from 0 to 100 real quick. You just need to take a moment and think about this logically. And like, again, like, it's so many times where she just saved me. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like a lot of times like people do really need to try it if you can and get those free tools, because like it really does make a difference.
Yeah. I think I've been saying this to you for like how long, and I'm like, I should really try therapy. But I don't know, eventually I'm sure I'll try it. I feel like I should, and it would be good.
But you have other tools, right? Like you use other tools as well.
I
Like
have
you're
other
very
tools, but I
avid in.
think I have other tools that I think work for me, just in the sense of like processing, like they're more self-soothing in the sense that like it's for me to decompress, to process how I'm feeling, to have time and space to myself where I don't have to.
That sounds pretty
It is, but I think
good.
for me the biggest problem is that I don't talk about things. And I mean that's always been a thing since I was a kid. I remember even my friends saying that to me in like as young as like elementary school, where they'd be
Wow,
like,
they're deep. Where are they?
we used to have deep talks on this. I had this one friend who we were very close and stuff at that time, and we always used to have like our deep talks in the sandbox. And this was literally elementary school. God bless her. She was, because we used to have really good conversations back then about God knows what, but they were deep talks nonetheless. But yeah, no, even from then, I remember like having friends, like my friend group, tell me like, "Oh, you never like talk about anything. You ever talk about how you're feeling?"
Because I don't trust you guys.
It wasn't even
I don't trust you hoes.
I'm just, and I don't.
Grade 4.
I'm not even sure where it comes from either. But I don't know. I've never been good about like talking about what's going on in my head. That's why I say like a lot of my tools are more like I don't know, soothing, because it's for me to process and do on my own.
Yeah.
But I don't actually vocalize it or like sit there. Like, I mean, I could talk to people, I guess, about it, but then I don't know. I just kind of tend to opt
But I think
to not
it always goes back to like that whole piece of like what we were talking about before, where it's like, how do we as this regular people, like if things were so easy to deal with, why would we have therapists?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, why would we?
Because they're not that.
Like, why do we have professionals that do things?
Yeah.
If things are so easy, it's like, why do we have people that work in marketing, right? If marketing is so easy, why do we have doctors, even though we can Google all our symptoms? You know what I mean?
Every symptom we Google can tell us we're dying.
You know what I mean? But like truly, like, if everything was so easy, then things would be easy. You know what I mean?
You wouldn't need any sort of external anything, because you could just deal with it yourself, you know?
Yeah, and I think like for our community, you know, like one of the biggest things is just like being able to just like slow down a bit and really like ask ourselves like, why is like therapy such a needed thing, or why is our hobby such an important thing, and why is like understanding that we can't wear every hat at like you can't, and you're not saying that you can't wear every hat throughout your lifetime. You can wear every hat throughout your lifetime, but it might not happen.
You want,
and you know, like I think another big thing too is we want everything, again, like we were saying before, now. We want everything now, and everything needs to happen now. All the projects needs to come out now. All the ideas that need to come out now. Everything needs to come out now. But I think like a healthy balance between these things that we're talking about is so important, because I might go to therapy, but if I leave therapy and I don't do the tools, then there's no purpose, you know?
Yeah.
If I leave therapy and I still am on 100, then like what's the purpose, you know? Or if I leave therapy and I haven't adopted like getting up in the morning and writing in my journal like I said I would, then like how am I going to heal? Or even if it doesn't have to be, you know, like one thing with my journal when I started writing, and shout out please notes, please good notes. Anyway, I'll tag her or whatever. She has amazing journals, and her journals are so pretty. And I'm like, I'm like, I like to, you love to get the aesthetic stuff, but her journals are so cute.
We love a good journal. We love a good pen.
And I find that her journal was so like low, like had low like the intensity was low when I looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I was like, I don't need to write. Like she had a time stamp on it, right? So you write the time that you were writing or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Or like it was like the date and where you were or something like that. And I just felt like, oh my God, like it's so true. Like I don't need to be at home to write in my journal. Like I can write in my journal at 3 p.m. in the office if I want to. You
can just stick it in your bag and write in it.
Exactly. And you know
Have you seen the shadow work book? That like
no.
Okay, so
I don't need any more journals.
No,
but I do.
It's not really a sell. Okay? But it's at Walmart, just saying.
Oh my gosh, stop.
Just saying.
It's open till 11 o'clock.
I know. I'm just saying. But so I have seen this book and I've seen people talk about it on like TikTok and stuff, but I mean take it with a grain of salt because TikTok is really like selling you something all the time. But it is this workbook that is supposed to be about really like asking you those questions that kind of like just to kind of help you decode parts of yourself. So it's like certain things, even to like some of the things that we notice where it's like, okay, I don't like to talk a lot about things and whatever. It's like, well, where does that come from? You know what I mean? But it's almost like a therapy in a workbook of sorts. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's I think it's kind of interesting.
We could share some of the tools actually. Like we can do that. Like after maybe we'll do a post of like sharing some of the tools that we use because
maybe we can go to Walmart.
Oh my God, stop. Winners, Walmart, everything.
Winners, Walmart, the whole everything.
Same. But no, anyway, okay, continue what you were saying.
But yeah, no, I to the point of like journaling and stuff like that, it made me think of that workbook because it's something that I've seen. I don't have it but it was interesting to me just because of that concept of like shadow work and like, again, that self-sufficient tool thing clearly is a thing for me where it's like, how can I solve my own problems and like look for things I don't have to source externally.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you need the balance, right? Like you need to, we don't need the balance. We can find the balance when we need to. Let's not put the pressure on finding the balance.
All of our tools are within ourselves.
Yeah, all of our tools are within ourselves, but also just being able to be like, okay, I do this and there are other tools. And I think that's the greatest thing about like us also expanding the directory to not just be a mental health professionals, but just like a wellness directory. Like recently, like one of the things that I realized that I need is a massage. I need a massage.
Oh, I'm joining you on that one because I recently had one and it was like...
First of all, you guys need to go... Shout out the Health Spot. We're actually, I just recently did a mini video with them. We're going to be posting it soon. I can't even tell you how good this massage was. Okay. Like I've been to a lot of therapists. It was just a moment. Like I just went, I did some stuff and I had the most amazing massage of my life. And you know, like one thing I realized is like, sometimes you like live in this world where you're like, oh my God, like I shouldn't be getting a massage all the time. Like that's not normal or whatever. But like, I just like the spa. Like if I want to decompress at the spa once every 2 months, like why not? You know what I mean? Like you learn your tools, like, but also again, tools don't need to be expensive, right? Like you can buy your journal, you can write in your journal, or you can like just get a piece of paper. Maybe your tool is like writing on a piece of paper and just throwing it out or ripping it up or burning it, whatever you want to do, right?
I think this is also why I always kind of stress the hobby factor.
Yeah, exactly.
And why I find it so important as well. Because I mean, and even with hobbies, like hobbies don't have to be expensive. You can honestly just start with like a couple things and it doesn't have to be... You don't have to go buy everything in the world to have the hobby unless you really like it and you want to do that. True, yeah. But I find hobbies super important because one, I just think there's like a deeper side outside of mental health where I think not enough people have like hobbies and interests anymore to the point where you will meet people and ask them like, what do you like to do? And outside of work and like, I don't know, watching TV and scrolling on their phone, there's nothing else that they can kind of say that they do. And those are the hobbies.
Don't judge me on my 35-day streak on TikTok, okay? I have one that's 35 days, okay?
I think we're at, what, 17 or 18 now?
Anyway.
Okay, well, I mean, whatever. We're all on social media. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Kidding. You know what it is.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be on social media. Within healthy boundaries. Ways.
But
I'm saying like your people's interests and your hobby shouldn't be like social media necessarily.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I find, again, the things that make us human, the things that make us people, things that make us interesting are the things that we do that are exactly tied to those things, what you're interested in. You know what I mean? If I talk to somebody and you tell me that, I don't know, you like to do fencing and you have like a blog where you critique movies, that's interesting. Very random. This first thing that came to my head, but that's interesting. Whereas if I meet someone and you just, I don't know, it was the first thing. Okay. Anyway. Say you meet someone and they're like, I'm really into like pottery and I write spoken word poetry. I'd be like, you sound pretty cool. Tell me about it. Like seriously, tell me about the things that you like.
And people say,
I don't want to hear about your scrolling habits on TikTok.
It's true. And people say But sometimes there are good things on
No,
TikTok.
no.
Like,
Again,
sometimes I'll tell you, like, yo, I just saw this TikTok and it was really good.
Within
like,
reason.
I know,
though.
I'm just kidding.
I'm saying
But
not your whole personality.
I'm kidding. Fine, okay, I'll stop. But no, seriously, like, I do think that I remember hearing this TikTok.
It's okay.
I remember hearing this TikTok.
She's like
that said, a lot of times, those people have said this to me in real life too, okay? So fine. I met this lady and she said it to me too.
Okay.
Like, you know, like some of the best conversations that she's had are with people that had experiences. Like a lot of your best stories come from like actually experiencing life, or going out and meeting this person and going out and doing this and going out and doing that. Like actually
that's your lore.
And it's true. Like, it's true. Again, and like somebody, like, I guess I'm out a lot and I'll have lots of conversations, but somebody told me, like, you get to a certain point in your life where you have to force yourself to do these things. It's not going to come naturally. You know, it takes a minute for these things to come naturally. You have to force yourself, because it's very easy as you get older to get tired, to get stressed, to get this, to get that. You know what I mean? It's harder to find a hobby. It's harder to find something that you enjoy. You know, you go through things in life and sometimes you feel like, what do I enjoy? You know, like what it does make me happy, you know? And why do I have to be like the best at it when I go there? You know what I mean? Like one of the things for me that I really loved that I started to do was hot yoga. Yeah. Like I just loved it. Like I just felt like when I went, some of the things, like for me, body image is a big thing for me. I felt like when I was in hot yoga, I didn't have to feel conscious about my body. Like everybody was there in a space to just like decompress and just take a moment. Everybody was there to take a moment.
Also, I remember when we tried painting and you just like, you gave up because you were like, I'm not good at it.
No, it's just a no. It's a no for me. But like just there are spaces where you can actually just find yourself like feeling like this doesn't feel like pressure.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like there's any pressure attached to it. It just feels like I do it because I like it. And I think like when I got into that headspace where I started to do it, and I was like, I just like it. Like it doesn't need to be a thing where I feel like, oh my God, I need to go intensely and I need to lose like 5 million pounds.
I don't need to like start a page and be like a fitness girl.
I don't need to be like a fitness girl. Like, I can just do it because I like it. And I can just like do it because I want to be there. And that's it. You know what I mean? Because I like something. That's as far as it has to go. And I think like the beautiful thing is like when you take a moment to just like not put the pressure on yourself, you know, and do the therapy if you can, or, you know, like find a friend that allows you to feel like a bit more relaxed, or like have conversations, or like find these different tools. Anyway, have these different tools, or like journal, or whatever the case may be. Like a big thing for me also is brain dumping. I'm a big brain dumper. Like I can sit down and like, just like, when everybody's sleeping in the house, and I could just like be at the table and just like dumping my brain out with all my ideas. Like that feels good to me. You know what I mean? It feels like I'm moving and I'm progressing. So like just like finding your tools and your mediums, like I feel like that is a major, major thing that like people need to take a moment to do, you know?
I always stand by doing, like, I mean, again, we know this because, like, I like crafting and stuff like that, but I always stand by the fact of, like, doing things with your hands, because I can't remember, I read something about it recently anyway, but it was, like, there's a bit of a psychology to it. When you work with your hands and you create something with your hands and go through that motion, it's stress relieving. It's like, it's something, it's just like an overall like positivity to yourself and what you're capable of doing and stuff like that. Like very randomly, I recently got into beading, and now
they're so pretty. Yeah.
Look, I made this one.
They're really nice. Oh my God. I'm wearing this one. Yeah, they're really nice.
So I recently got into this, and it was super random. It was literally just like at my work, we were doing this big event with like a bunch of authors, and they bought a lot of beads because one of the activities that they had for the authors to do at the conference was like make friendship bracelets with your like favorite romance trope. Okay.
Oh, that's cute.
It was cute. And so I was like, I saw it, I was like, I want to make a bracelet. And then it took over my life, and now I have a lot of beads.
It's like the coloring thing. I like the coloring thing, like the coloring books.
I love coloring.
Like the calmness coloring books. Like they're just like I think the number one thing to take from this podcast, if anything, is one, go to therapy. Always. Okay. Always go to therapy if you can. And if it's for you, you know, like you don't have to. And I think like that's why I was so pushy on the part of like, well, just like even in our conversations around like expanding the directory to wellness is because like some people are not ready to have those conversations, and that's okay too, right? We deal with a lot. Some people are not ready to sit down and have those conversations, but sometimes just being able to just like enjoy yourself or understand yourself is like one of the most beautiful things, you know, or one of the most peaceful things. Like you can find peace in yourself without having to go to like therapy and talking about it. Maybe you're not ready for that right now, but maybe you're ready to like make a bracelet when you just want to stop. Or maybe you're ready to just like, another big thing for me is like now getting into my faith, like talking to a friend about it. Like I recently like really started to learn like how do I read the Bible and how do I really do these things? How do I adopt it into my life? And then again, like we said, that like just anything that you can find. If it's painting, you don't have to be good at it. You just have to like it.
That yeah, I like that one's like the biggest stressor too. Like outside of the two things I'll always say is like I feel like sometimes when people feel like they have to spend a lot of money and be like, oh, because again, like everything's always selling you something somewhere. So I am not saying this to sell you anything and tell you to go buy a million things, but I'm just saying simply you can start even to like crochet, right? Which is something I do. All you need is a hook and a ball of yarn, and you can get both of those for like $10. That's all you need to start really small. To start small, right? Yeah. And I think also just being open to like trying different things, because there's so many different hobbies, and it's okay to like try different things. And like me, I used to really like to draw in high school. I used to spend hours every friggin' night just drawing. Then I got really into painting, and then painting took over my life, and I have a ridiculous amount of paint. I did clay work, I crochet.
And I think these are like
beads now.
Yeah, and I think these are like just great things for people to consider and think about. It's just like, where does your creativity come from? Like take that moment and again, like let that like plant literally grow from your brain, just like in the post that I saw. Like,
and yeah, just being open to trying new things. And if something doesn't stick for you, that is also okay. Like you can also be like, oh, I've seen this everywhere, I really want to try it. And then maybe you try it and you're just like, okay, I don't like this. That's okay too. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden that like just you like, don't have a hobby.
And I think a big thing too is like letting your hobby just be for you.
You like don't have to monetize everything.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you don't have to monetize everything. Not everything needs to be a small business. Like not everything needs to be a hustle. Just allow yourself to just like be still and just like be in the moment and just like do that thing that you enjoy to like take care of yourself. Because I think like, again, some of the things that we realize, that's where the most beautiful parts of ourselves come out, like just like for me, I felt like when I started going to hot yoga, like I could just pick any time and be like, yeah, I just want to go. Like I just never loved something where I was like, I just want to go. Like I'll just go at 4:00. I don't care. Or I never did something very often that was like physical movement where I was like, oh, I actually have to make it to this class. Like it's not that anybody's telling me, like there's no expectation for anybody else. I just want to make that commitment to myself where I just want to be there. Same thing like therapy. I just want to be there. Like, it's not that somebody told me I have to, or it's not an expectation of anything else. It's just a non-negotiable for me.
I say there's truly no greater joy than making your own sweater for the winter.
Yeah.
I honest to God, when you get to pull out a sweater for the winter and just be like, this is my sweater.
And I made
hobby. This sweater, yeah.
I don't know if I feel that, but you can make me one. But I get
good attitude.
No. Yeah, to be honest, like I agree with you, like just second to what you're saying. Like it's just like you can just like feel yourself, like you've been doing crochet. Like I know you said you did the crocheting before, like when you were young, but like now I've seen you like really, really dive into and create some amazing things. And I think I probably said it to you, like, why don't you sell this? And you're just like, yeah, I just want to like do it for fun.
There's been many times where I've had same thing, like people have said to me like, oh my God, like you should sell these. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. Because the thing is, like, I have done that before where I used to sell the things that I made. And it was fun. Don't get me wrong. I did enjoy it. But after a while, like, it got to when I had my Etsy shop, it got to a point where I was actually doing really well. And I was getting a lot of custom orders. And after, like, months and months of doing custom orders, I started to kind of be like, oh, I never get to make anything that I want to make now. Because I wasn't really, like, making stock just, like, for the shop anymore. Just, like, whatever I wanted to and be creative. It was a lot of custom orders. It was what everyone else wanted to do, which was fun. But after a while, it was just like, where's my creativity?
Yeah.
And then when I got into crochet, it was just, one, I never had any expectations for it. I just started doing it, and then it really just became a thing for me where I really like it. It's very soothing. It's very, like, I can't even watch TV anymore without crocheting because I can't stand my hands being idle. Like, I need to have my hands going and, like, crocheting something, or else it's just a weird situation for me. But, I mean, it's not in a bad way. It's just I enjoy that. Like, I enjoy that, like, that connection between the two.
Yeah.
Of, like, doing that.
It's just your piece,
Yeah, it's my piece.
And I think, like, yeah, as we, like, obviously kind of wrap up now, like, I think, like, the best things that we can, like, share with our community through this conversation is, like, I think, like, one of the big things, like, obviously we had a guest on the last few, and I think, like, it's really nice for us to just, like, I like this conversation because we kind of just got to be able to just be like, we as regular people, like, just what does it look like, Like, what does life look like for us
It
as
looks like
regular?
Wednesday evening and we're tired.
I know, literally, and
But
I'm
we show
hungry,
up.
and I'm so starving
I'm
right
hungry
now.
too.
I'm so hungry. I'm not gonna
I
lie
am
to you.
very hungry now
I'm
too.
starving.
So throw that in. Yeah.
And I just think like when you really think about it, it's just like you really just need to do the things that make you happy and just like take care of yourself and like don't let yourself burn out and just slow down and give yourself, if it's anything you can give yourself, is 30 minutes a day.
Maybe even an hour.
Yeah. Well, let's start with 30.
I feel like we deserve an hour.
I know, but it's hard. It's a harder grasp.
Yeah,
Like if you could tell
that's
yourself
fair.
30 minutes first, like just do it. It's
Yeah.
better than zero. You know what I mean?
No,
So
100%.
with that being said,
Yeah.
everybody, you know your homework. Just give yourself 30 minutes for the day. Just give yourself 30 minutes. Just give yourself some time. Find a hobby.
Try
if you
something.
have a hobby,
Yes.
drop it in the comments. Or if you do something to take care of your mental health and you found a way to like take care of burnout, drop it in the comments and let us know what it is. We have a post up with the same question, but you can drop it in the comments and let us know.
We want to know. And my same point that I'll always leave is try something new. Try a new hobby, even if you have an existing one, which is really awesome to always have, but it never hurts to have a couple more and just find other things that you're interested in because life is long and, might as well have fun and do cool things. So, yeah, have fun.
Perfect. Well, don't forget to check out SS Designs. Check out her stuff. Get her stuff before Diwali. Get her stuff before Halloween.
Spooky season. This is exactly what you need in your wardrobe right now.
And that's a wrap today. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back with our next guest, and we are so excited. Thank you guys for watching. Okay, good. Cool. We're done.
Yeah, we did it.
That was good. That was nice. That was relaxing. That was low impact.
Got really intense at one point.